friend, come on in. I'm making breakfast burritos this morning. This is one of my go-to breakfast preps that I can prep ahead of time. They freeze great, they taste great, they keep me full for a long time, and who wouldn't like to have a warm breakfast on a rushed morning? Okay, so part of my prep is I'm actually going to cut up 2 of these little chorizo sausages. Use whatever chorizo you can find if you like chorizo. If you don't like chorizo, there are lots of other options. So you can go with, I'm obviously putting bacon in as well, so you can just do bacon on its own. I have used leftover ham to make this. I have used leftover steak. Leftover steak doesn't happen very often, but when it does, it goes really well in these burritos. You could also, if you wanted to keep it sort of a vegetarian option, I don't know, do vegetarians eat eggs? Never thought of that, actually. You could put beans in. Okay, so I am going to, this is a pre-cooked chorizo. I'm going to, and because it's pre-cooked, I obviously can't take it out of the casing. I'm just going to sort of dice this up into fine little chunks. That way I'm not having a big, huge piece of sausage when I take a mouthful. I also have my bacon cut up. So some of my meal prep has already been done for me. I previously cooked a pile of bacon, and I have some sort of bacon chunks that I left in the freezer basically for the next time I did this. So whenever I can prepare things ahead of time, I do try to do that. But these are, it doesn't call for a lot of ingredients. It's going to call for whatever kind of cheese you like. I typically just go with like a Mexican style cheese. So there's cheese blends that are Mexican style. Obviously eggs. I use potato, some sort of hash brown or cubed potato, and then a meat product of some sort. So I do have, I don't want to touch anything, my hands are covered in it, sausage, but these are bacon bits that I cooked up last time. So they are all ready to go. So pretty much I'm going to need to cook the potato, cook the egg, cook the chorizo, and then wrap everything up in burritos, in burrito wraps. Okay, I am going to cook everything on my griddle, which is kind of nice because then I can do cooking outside in the summer if I need to. So I have a 2-pound bag of diced potato. I am going to put about half of this bag on here. And that's one way to kill the heat. So pretty much the way I like to cook this is I will put the bacon on first. The bacon will render out a lot of fat, and I will keep the fat off to the side instead of letting it go down into the grease pot. If it does, I keep my grease pot clean, and I will just pour it out of the grease pot and back onto the griddle as needed. That's if I can't stop it from going down there. So I am going to get these potatoes covered in a little bit of oil and spread them out and let them cook. I want them to be nice and crispy. If you have never cooked hash browns like this before, it's best to not move them once you got them on the griddle, because sometimes if you move them too much, they end up sort of getting slightly mashed. We don't want mashed potato, we want potato chunks. So I'm going to let this truck along. I will speed through this. You don't need to watch potatoes cooking, but I am not, just as a note, I'm not going to season anything. I might put a little pepper on the potatoes, but I'm not going to really season anything with salt until at the end, because the bacon is salty and I don't want to over salt it. So I will basically cook everything mostly plain, and then I'll put it all together in a big bowl or a big pot or something, whatever the biggest thing I have that'll hold all of this. And then I will mix it all together and taste it and see how much salt it needs. So don't worry about seasoning anything at that point. You can even add your pepper at the end. I know a lot of people season as you go, but in this circumstance, because of the bacon and because I know bacon can be pretty salty, I want to season at the end, like do the major seasoning at the end just to make sure it's not over seasoned. But obviously you do you. Now I just had this griddle out and there's like flour everywhere. I just made flour tortillas because my favorite thing to do is to do homemade tortillas. So they're nice and pliable and soft. They've already been steamed. They're really easy to roll. And then I make my burritos, the filling, and then everything just goes in all warm. And then I roll them up, let them cool a little bit, and put them in the freezer. So it's a bit of a big meal prep day, but it works really nicely. And at the end of the day, well, not the end of the day, but after the end of the meal prep, I can enjoy a burrito and I don't have to worry about making myself a meal. The burritos are really good for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They're just, I love them so much. And if you keep bacon fat in your fridge, or however you store your bacon fat, you can always put a little bit of that on the griddle, and that will help flavor or season your potatoes as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add some bacon fat, just because I noticed the griddle is getting a little dry. Plus, flavor. And honestly, if you want to save time making the potatoes, you could probably do them in the oven while cooking everything else, and it would save you time. Or if you had roasted potatoes from the night before. Okay, while my potatoes continue trucking along, I am going to get started on the chorizo. Okay, I'm going to heat my bacon up just a little bit so it's going to be easier to mix into everything. Okay, there we go. It's enough that it will be easier to mix in. Okay, now the fun part. I don't want to overwhelm this with eggs, so I'm probably going to cook the egg in 2 batches. Basically, I need to create a little dam so the egg doesn't head towards the grease pot. So I'm probably working with 12 ounces of bacon, about 14 eggs, about a pound of potato, and I used 2 of those chorizo sausages. That seems to make about enough filling for 12 wraps. That's kind of why, if you watched my wrap video, you'll see I was aiming for 12 wraps as I was making the wraps. And if you haven't seen my wrap video, go check it out, because that will show you how to make your own homemade wraps for this recipe. They are nice and pliable. They taste so much better than store-bought. But if you only have access to store-bought, this can be a pretty quick meal if you're just using, leftovers, you're cleaning out the fridge, and you've got store-bought wraps. That's fine. It's all good. Whatever gets the food in your belly, especially on those busy mornings. Okay, I do want to break the eggs up. Now, the reason why I like to cook everything separate is I don't want to have like a whole pile of egg in one section with like a couple of potatoes wrapped around it, and then another section where it's all meat and a tiny bit of egg wrapped around it. So I just find that this works a lot better for me. Obviously, you do you. Experiment, try different ways of cooking things. Maybe it works better for you to just throw everything in a pan and just make a couple of wraps at once, just enough for the week. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that my floor is apparently not level in this location. I don't think I've ever seen it run for the corner this badly. Okay, so all of my ingredients are cooked. They're in the bowl. I've been sort of mixing it a little bit as I was waiting for the potatoes to finish up cooking. So like I said, pretty much nothing has been seasoned. Obviously, bacon is salty. So I am going to add a bunch of pepper, because pepper is good. Okay. And then I'm going to put in some salt, and then I want to taste it after each addition of salt, because I want to make sure I'm not putting in too much salt. And then, obviously, the final ingredient is some shredded cheese. You can shred your own, or if you've got pre-shredded, just go ahead, use what you have. This is a bit of a spicy cheese that I'm going to be using. I don't normally use spicy cheese, but this one was open, it was in the freezer, and it needed to get used. And I don't know what to tell you on how much cheese to add in. I've been eyeballing it, so probably 2, maybe 3 cups, sort of personal preference. I like to add the cheese in now, that way I don't have clumps of cheese, or you know how when you make a burrito or get a burrito made, at like Chipotle, and all the cheese is on one side and all the rice is on the other. Yeah, I know you can ask them to mix it for you, but even that doesn't always work well. So I like to just mix it in, and then I know I have everything in every bite. Okay, add a little more cheese. My cheese is frozen. Now the ingredients in my bowl are still warm, but they're not like screaming hot. So my cheese won't melt completely. It might start melting or get soft at least, but it shouldn't get completely melted. I'm trying to get a little bit of everything. I think I can put in a little more salt. Okay, get a little bit more. Give that a try. Yep, that's a lot better. Okay, now comes the fun part. I am going to start rolling these. If you have fresh tortillas, make sure you keep them covered. There we go. So I'm going to put a scoop in the middle, probably about that much. And I like to sort of bring the sides together and create a bit of a log. And then I fold the sides in, That might need a little bit more. But I want to kind of keep everything to the center. So I'm going to fold the sides in. I'm going to fold this over until I can cover it. Now you see you get these little wings on the side? I find that if you want to get rid of them, it helps to fold it more diagonally. And then you fold these parts in again, and then you want to kind of tuck and roll tight. And there you go. Nice breakfast burrito. So I just line them up, and then when I'm done with all of them, then I can wrap them in saran and get them in the freezer. You can wrap them in other things as well, but take into account that some things are not microwavable. So you want to make sure you're putting it in something that you can reheat it in, and that makes it more sort of travel. You can travel with it. More handy to eat on the go, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So let's do that again. Then I fold these in a little bit and then roll it tight. Don't want to roll it too tight. I do find sometimes the wraps will tear a little bit, but as long as I'm gentle, they do tend to hold up. And the good thing is, it doesn't matter what shape your wraps are, it works, and you can't even tell that they were less than round. Can't tell that one was less round than that one. And there we go. Fresh tortillas ready to eat for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. They freeze really well. They reheat really well. They're perfect on-the-go meals. I mean, I don't know what more I could say to pitch this. If you want an egg-free version, I did think of the tofu scramble, so you could do that. But yeah, no, these are really good, and I think I overfilled them a little more than I normally do because I normally can get 12, 11 or 12 out of the batch. But this time I got 3, 6, 9. I got 9. That's not bad. So I got about a week's worth of meals, depending on how big my family, how many of my family members want to eat this. So, but yeah, they're really good and they really fill you up. So I hope you give it a try. Thanks for watching.